on today's show.
My actual notes for the drums, next to it says drums, and it says OMFG.
That's all you gotta say.
This is K-Rockcast, the podcast where music and perspectives collide.
I'm Anne, a music lover who's the ultimate fan.
And I'm Kelly, a professional musician. Join us as we dive into the world of the Rose and other Korean and Asian rock bands.
Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we'll wildly disagree, but what's guaranteed is a passionate, hilarious, and unfiltered conversation about the music that unites us and the bands that inspire us. We're back, Kelly, for our second deep dive into CNBLUE's album Threeology. We're diving today into two more tracks. We're going to do track 3 and track 4. I had to look back, Kelly, at like when we released part 1 of Threeology. It was back in mid-February.
I know.
It's now literally mid-May.
It's a while.
Crazy.
Since. There's been things happening. It's been a little busy.
I know. So we're definitely overdue. We are excited to dig in. These CNBLUE episodes, this will be our third deep dive we're doing. They're always very popular by our viewers and our listeners. So,
of course. It's CNBLUE. What do you expect?
I know. They're so great. And this is timely, Kelly. They are finally touring and coming to Europe. You have wanted them to come.
And I've not managed to get a ticket. Yay! I know. The first time I see CNBLUE is probably going to be in South Korea or in Singapore or somewhere like that. It's not going to be in England. I can see that happening.
You just shared your plans for a vacation this year of going hopefully to like Singapore and Japan and South Korea. Maybe you could catch them while you're on that trip.
Yeah. Hopefully. That'd be cool.
That would be awesome.
Cool. Yeah. Because the lady I'm going to go and see in Singapore, she's already seen them about 3 times.
I'm
not bitter.
I know, it's so rare. It's so rare they come over to like Europe or North America. So it's been a treat on this tour.
It's 13 years since they played London last time, which is insane.
I know, it's a long time. I hope that they're going to try to come more often over into the West. I think they have a good following, a decent following in the West. They should definitely tour more. So let's dive in. Let's jump into the first track today. Is called Low Key. So Kelly, why don't you walk us through all of the song credits for this song?
Right. So the lyrics are by Young Hwa, Kan Min Hyuk. Yes, you heard that. The drummer is involved.
Exciting.
Young and Closer. Composition. Now this when we looked at this one, I sort of did a little giddy like. Woo! For a second or two, I got very, very excited. So Sam Carter, may I point out this isn't Sam Carter from The Architects, which is why I got quite excited for a second or two. This is actually British singer-songwriter Sam Carter, who, no mean feat here, many of you may actually know, he was a radio host on Arirang Radio as well. So you will have seen him. And he was fantastic on that. And of course, the other part of the composition duo on this one is Kan Min Hyuk again. Arrangement was by Closer, and obviously it was performed by CNBLUE.
Yeah, I didn't make the connection, Kelly, till you kind of pointed out when we were just getting ready to record who Sam Carter was. And then it totally clicked. So a lot of you that are viewers and listeners that are big followers of the Rose, if you've watched a lot of their older content on their Arirang radio interviews, Sam Carter has interviewed them a lot. So you guys probably know his face, but maybe didn't realize who he was. So how cool he got connected with CNBLUE for this song. Love that.
Shall we start having a look at the melody analysis and what this song is built of?
Yes, go ahead. I think we might see some gushing in this episode, I feel like, coming up. So I always love when
There's
Kelly
a little
gushes
bit of
because it doesn't
musical
happen
gushing. There's
very
a little bit
often.
of musical gushing happening in this. Right, so Loki is in the key of C major, and it is 145 beats per minute. This one is fast.
This is a driving song.
High energy. The chord progression is C minor, B flat, E flat, and G minor. And it's a disco track. Honestly, this is a disco track. However, the weird thing is, normally with disco tracks, they tend to be in major keys because obviously it's party and it's happy. So what they've done is they've kind of inverted this and gone for a minor chord. And obviously by going like the minor, it sort of makes it a bit sort of more nighttime, a little bit darker, which I really like. I think it's a clever way of doing it. The only other people that you'll know kind of used to do that type of thing was Blondie. They used to do that. So they sort of make a disco track as well with their music, but they'd invert it and make it a minor chord as well. So let's start on the drums. So as we've said, Minnie Hook co-wrote this one, and you can tell the drums are the driving heart of this track. It is a classic disco drum beat. There's no other way of looking at it. This is pure mid-70s groove. It kind of reminds me a little bit in places of I Was Made for Loving You by Kiss. So if there's any sort of glam rock nerds out there, you will know that track because it was the one that everybody went, oh my God, they've gone disco, and everybody hated, but actually it's an amazing track. It is 4 on the floor, straight through. It's very kick drum heavy, especially during the chorus, and that's just to make sure that everybody that's listening understands what the beat is. And one of the things I absolutely adore about this, and it doesn't happen very often, especially in rock music, is you get this open and close hi-hat. And this is quick. To say, I mean, it's 145 beats a minute. I mean, literally, there's some going on that. So to play the hi-hats in an open and closed position, you aren't just playing just sort of hitting the cymbals as such. So to open and close it, if you don't know what happens behind a drum kit and you've just seen the front of a drum kit, normally most drummers will have a single pedal for the kick. A lot of very decent drummers use a double pedal. So a double pedal or a triple, which you can basically put them in tandem. And this is all to do with how many beats you can get on your kick drum. Now, I'm assuming that Camille Hook probably uses a double pedal. I would have thought. But that means that you frequently end up with an additional pedal, which is sat next to your hi-hat stand.
This is Editor Cal, and when I say in tandem, what I actually mean is the beaters are in tandem on the kick drum. What you will not see behind a kick is a daisy chain of pedals. One day I'll show you behind a drum kit.
And to open and close the hi-hat, you have like a little flick switch at the top on like a tiny little valve that sits above the actual cymbals. And you hit that and it actually allows the cymbals to move, and you have to use a pedal underneath. So you have to move your foot to keep the groove going. So not only is he sort of doing this to play, but his feet are doing this to keep it going as well. So this is really good drumming. And
yeah,
it's really great.
I just have to say, like, with seeing him live, he is constantly moving. Like constantly moving. I remember when I saw him last year in New York, at one point, I don't remember after which song it was, but he literally like injured his kind of like rib area because he had been just like going so hard that you could tell he was kind of hurting. So I can only imagine what he looks like live when he's playing this song. Like, my gosh.
Oh, yeah, honestly, I mean, I've written down here for that style of playing. Now, obviously, that kind of style you would have heard a lot sort of during the 70s. So, I mean, especially like Studio 54 type of stuff, you would have heard that style of drumming. But it had a bit of a renaissance with bands like System of a Down. So John Dolmayan, he used to do that a lot. In fact, he still does play in that style. And it's really hard to do and to do it well, which is why most drummers avoid it. Because the great thing, and this is why I always say I kind of get into my nerdy territory when it comes to drums, is because a drummer isn't playing one instrument. A drummer is playing a minimum of 5 to 6 instruments. Every single piece of that, every single piece of that kit is a separate instrument that is separately tuned and has its own little mystique and its way of playing it. So that's why I, have a soft spot for drummers. So the bridge also sits back, which is so clever because it allows you to get this little breath of fresh air. So it goes into this really lovely like jazz swing thing, and it's just like, now you're just showing off, dude. You're just showing off. I mean, it's only there for a few bars. It doesn't go mad, but it's so clever because it then pushes the end of the song. And as we've said before with CNBLUE, they're very good at giving it this little tempo push by just taking away. And I think that's one of the things we've kind of got to understand. These guys know how to write a song and to write it well. And then there's this heavy compression in the recording as well. So what they've done is they've like completely compressed the sound wave of the kick and the snare. So it sounds more like a 1970s drum machine. So that's why you get sort of more of a dry sound with it. But it's so beautifully done.
I think when you talked about just, a lot of the reminiscence of that 1970s kind of disco rock, Kiss, not that my mom loved Kiss. Not that I know a lot of their songs, but I feel like maybe it's subconscious for me because my mom played Kiss a lot as a kid. I couldn't get this out of my head, Kelly, that this song melody felt so familiar. And I tried to kind of research and see if there were other songs it was influenced by or sampling or sounded close to in terms of like the chords. But I couldn't find anything other than seeming like they leaned into a lot of very kind of traditional structure and melody of kind of that more classic, rock. So I guess that's what it was, but it felt so familiar to me.
Loving you. It's exactly what it is.
I feel like I gotta listen to that song after this and be like, is this the song subconsciously that maybe was in my mind?
Peter Criss is amazing. Side note, I grew up in a house where stuff like Queen and Kiss and all of that type of stuff was played. And obviously, as I got a bit older, I actually managed to see Kiss as well live, and they were in full makeup as well. They were amazing.
So cool.
I'm going to be having a little gush. But anyway, moving on. So as this is a disco track, no disco track is complete without the key member of any disco band, and that is the bass player. So if you haven't got a decent bass player,
the bass is so groovy.
Lost. Oh, it's so
awesome
perfect,
in this song.
It's groovy, but it doesn't overtake, and that's the clever thing about it. And this is what they do so well, and I absolutely love about them. So this bass groove holds the entire thing together. There's a really lovely use of octave jumping as well. So that's where you move from the root note and you go higher octave wise, and you do that on the off notes. So that's how you get this jumpy sound. And that's the only way to describe it. It's a chunky sound, and that's where it comes from. And then there's this really heavy use of muted ghost notes as well, and that's done during the verse. But what you will notice on this track, when we sort of look at the vocals, is there's more of a range of vocals. We're not using Yonghwa's sort of falsetto like he does on a lot of tracks. He does sneak into his chest register. So when he's in his chest register, they've had to clear out, they've had to carve a little bit of free area out. And they've done that actually by just muting the bass. Now, the guitars. are littered with these beautiful funky stabs. So the guitar is syncopated, and that is emphasizing the C minor and the B flat. And then we have this chugging palm muted rhythm that just locks into the bass. And this is the great thing about it. This is why you get that sort of, you want to move because everything is rhythmic and it's not fighting with the vocal melody. So that's how they've done this as cleverly as they have. And
I don't know who their mix engineer was. I couldn't find those credits, but what a testament, I think, of some good mixing on this song.
It's amazing, honestly. The actual use of compression and everything was just been done so well. It's been done to a point where it allows the instruments to almost sound like something else. So this is how you almost get this, even though you know that's an acoustic drum kit, you know he sat in a studio and played every single note of this. It could easily be a Roland drum kit, easily. What you also get is this very funky second guitar as well that sits a little bit further up the octaves. And this is where you get, again, this compression of syncopated stabs. So you've got two guitars there. So you've got something that's sat a little bit lower, and then you've got this guitar sat a little bit higher. So it kind of works like layering a vocal. So
yeah,
it just allows that sort of richness of sound as such.
Is that second one that you're talking about? I kind of put in my notes, I really loved, it's in the background of the chorus, and then it kind of through that part, like around like a minute 15, it kind of comes into the forefront. I think that might be that guitar you're talking about. Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
but that helps because it just bolsters it, and they very cleverly layer stuff as you go. So you'll notice as the song progresses, they just add more and more instrumentation, or should we say, they push up the levels on more and more instrumentation. So it just keeps getting thicker and thicker as it goes along, and it's a really beautiful and very clever way to write a song. It really is. It's very traditional. It's very, very clever. And of course, it wouldn't be CNBLUE without a guitar solo. And this changes so drastically. So what happens is you've gone from this really clean, funky sound that's quite airy and, and you kind of feel like the guitar's played up here. That's a running gag. If you've ever seen a funk guitarist, they normally play right underneath the chin. And then we go from that, and then it's like the distortion kicks in, and this suddenly becomes a rock solo, and it's like, when did this happen? What's this? But that is testament to them and them knowing that, hello, we're just going to, I know you enjoyed this, but we're just going to make sure you're still with us. And that's what they do. They just give it this little nudge just to make sure that you're still with us.
Yeah.
One of the things
I love that solo. I bet that, again, this would be an incredible song seen live.
My God,
and just that, I can just imagine Young Wah on that guitar solo playing this.
It's so good. And going back to like the mixing and that as well, one of the things I love about this is they've left guitar string sounds in. So you can literally hear that beautiful sound of fingers on strings. And, you can hear it, electrum sliding up a metal string and things like that. And I like that because to me that adds the human back in. And there was a period of time where it was just removed all the time, and it's nice to sort of hear them sort of go, no, this is a human that's played this, come on, at least allow us this, we've got to have this. Now to finish off, we'll go on to Young Wah's vocals. The vocals are really light on this. He's in his falsetto range and it just sits so beautifully above this drum and bass groove. But that's where he needs to be, because if he's any further down, it would get sort of muddied up. It's clever. The vocals are syncopated and they just sit and they lock in like the bass, like the guitar. Everything locks into that drum beat. You can tell the drummer's written this song.
Yeah. We have a clip. Let's play that now. Yeah, so that was fun. I had to find clips of performances, so credit to that user on YouTube for that, but we were just kind of saying as we were both watching that we love just their energy live on stage. I liked that clip because you could see all
God.
three of them clearly,
Yeah.
and I just love like Lee Jung-shin. He's so fun to watch play bass because he's very animated. He moves around the stage so much. And then there's Min Hyuk just like killing it on those drums. I mean, the man
It's
must
just like,
burn like 5,000 calories in one show. Gosh. That's
that
why he
boy
eats
is
all the time.
carb
He said
loading.
his content is all him eating.
He's carb loading afterwards. That's why literally all you ever see is him eating.
Oh, all right. Let's jump in to the meaning of the lyrics, Kelly. So I like when they do this a lot. The Rose does this a lot, I think, in their music too. Kind of where the meaning behind the lyrics and then the drive and the melody in this song to me have some synergy.
Yeah,
Right? Like this is such a driving song. And to me, this song's really just about this like attraction you have for this other person. And you kind of become like obsessed and it's like intense kind of attraction and that intrigue, you kind of have.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and the how those emotions escalate. And you talked about just how this melody keeps driving and escalating throughout the
and
song.
it
And I
does. Yeah,
love that synergy.
yeah, yeah. And that is one of the great things about it. They, I don't know how they tend to write. I don't know if they write music first and then lyrics and melody, or if it's vice versa. But honestly, however they do it well because there's always this connection. Because there's nothing worse than when you hear a song and you're listening to it and your mind is thinking something else, and then
Mm,
the opposing story of the lyrics, and you're like, this just doesn't connect. It's kind of,
mm.
you're kind of in like a weird sort of ADHD territory of where you've got two songs playing and competing and it just doesn't make sense. So they are very clever and very smooth at blending things together.
Yeah, I like this use of this slang phrase low key too, which to me is kind of an English slang phrase. So I think it's interesting. I don't know that any of them are like too proficient or fluent in English, but I think it's kind of interesting they use this phrase of like low key I need you
Yeah,
as like one time, they're saying it. So it's um kind of talking about this again, like this level of attraction and how much they're kind of drawn into this person.
yeah.
Um yeah, I don't know. I just thought that like use of that slang was kind of clever.
It has multiple connotations. I don't know whether that's the same in American English. Um, so it's kind of, yeah, it's kind of a strange one because, yeah, I mean, it could be like a low key obsession, or but it kind of like the music sounds like something that would be like at a low key event type of things. I mean,
Yeah,
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 low key bar, that
yeah.
in that kind of, yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, but I do tend to find that sometimes with their lyrics. I don't know whether
Mm,
Younghwa sort of gravitates sometimes to certain terms and then builds around a term, because that can happen. I mean, you can hear something
yeah.
and you'll go, I like this word, and then you end up building a song around that. It might not necessarily be, I have this feeling, and you just pour it out. So sometimes you do just take like keywords and that becomes your inspiration for it. So it might be that. But yeah, it's,
I could kind of see that, particularly maybe
yeah,
with the structure of this song. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah, I think so, 'cause I think a lot of this probably came from I think the music may have come first with this, and I think
Mm.
the lyrics and the melody have come afterwards, which is why the actual vocals might sit back a bit further and be kind of
Mm.
more smooth than this
Mhm.
sort of upfront aggressive nature. Um, yeah, there's some really lovely little phrases in this as well. As per normal, I mean, it's like as we've said. I mean, we looked at their original writing from when they first started, and there was kind of this naivety about it, whereas now
Mhm.
it's a very steadfast use of language, and it's a very understood
Yeah.
narration as well. I tend to find with it. Um, but yeah, what's your sort of thoughts on this one?
I kinda like the opening, how he uses the term, like, speed of light. So I kinda feel like he's kinda
Yeah,
comparing, like, when you first, like, get into another person and everything's just, like, so exciting and, you want that time, to go by quickly, or you wanna see them again, or you kinda want, it's like you're going through this kind of at the speed of light. But then I think he kind of turns it around in the lyrics to where in a little later he's talking about time like slowing down. Like he doesn't want the night to end. And then it's like when you're with that person, you kind of want the opposite. Like you want time to almost
yeah,
stop. So
yeah,
I like his use like that. And I think like you said, we've been doing more of their more recent songs than their earlier work, but I can see definitely it feels like his lyric writing has really grown and evolved over his
yeah,
career. He is a more, and I think it's the nature of writing in Korean over English. I do feel like he's a very direct lyric writer.
he
Um,
is. I kind of get
yeah.
from the way he writes lyrics, I kind of get the feeling he's probably a very direct guy as well, to be honest.
Mhm.
I kind
Mhm.
of get that feeling. I don't think he's one to beat around the bush with what he's thinking or what he's saying. Um, I quite like the fact though in this album there are lots of little nods to space and to
Yes.
physics
Yes.
and things in time. And the science nerd in me really appreciates this. I mean, sort of like the whole idea of the speed of light. Well, I mean, the speed of light, when you're traveling at the speed of light, you don't know you're traveling at the speed of light. And it's things like that, and how it all interrelates. It's really lovely, and it's very
Mhm.
sweet as well. And I mean, we've all been there. I say we've all been
Mhm.
there. I think we've all been there at some point in our lives, that we've all had this, you've met somebody and become fascinated with that individual and they become encapsulating. And I think that's it. I think this song is literally, it's about that encapsulation of that individual, and wanting to know more, and then sort of like the little noise in the back of your head that's going, maybe I don't want to know more. maybe I should stop now.
Mhm.
um but yeah, this just, it's so lovely. And I think the fact that it's like 145 beats a minute as well also nods very heavily to that's how fast your heart's racing when you see them.
Right.
It's all of this type of stuff. Arrhythmia kicks in. That's when you get the hi hats coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, this there's lots of really lovely like little, I don't, innuendo's not the right word, but there's lots of little nuances. That's the term. There's lots of little nuances that tie back to the theme of the words, and I think that's just really
Mhm.
good songwriting.
Yeah, I agree. I like the post-chorus, Younghwa says, "Sinking deeper
I
and
love
deeper,
that.
low key. Low key, I want you. I'm falling into that twinkle in your eyes. Low key, I need you. I gotta know that low key you're mine." I
I
love
know.
that.
So
That's, I think, one of my
sweet.
favorite. lines.
I quite like the pre-chorus before that, and I'm just a little curious about your day without realizing it. I'm thinking of you. Yeah, and
Yes,
that's
that's
so
cute. That's a sweet
sweet.
line.
It's so
That's a sweet
sweet
line.
because
You're right.
as I said, I think we can all we've all been there, and you just like sat there and you're thinking, why are they in my head? Go away! I'm
Yeah,
trying
what
to
are they
do
doing right
something.
now?
Stop it!
Yeah,
Stop
I
it!
love that
I'm
too.
trying.
It's so
I'm
sweet.
working. Go away!
Yeah. It's funny you say even like the references in this song to kind of space and time. It's very
Yeah,
heavy. Maybe that's a good transition into our next track, To the Moon and Back. So let me kick us
very
off
much so.
with all of the credits on this song. So composition for melody and music. Jung Young-hwa, Callie Layman. I don't know that name, but that sounds like maybe it would be like a Western songwriter that they worked with. Jung Chun, Jin Dae Ho, and Choi Ho Jin. Lyrics by Cho So Young and Jung Young Hwa. Arrangement by Jung Jun, Jin Dae Ho, and Choi Ho Jin. And obviously, the performing artist is CNBLUE. I love this one. I mean, I like Low Key as well. Like, it's a great track, but
I
there's
like
something
Loki.
about
I
this
like
To the
this one.
Moon and Back. What an
Yeah,
earworm for me.
I
I
love
can't get
both
this
of these
out of
tracks.
my head.
I must admit, I mean, what goes through my head with this album is that it's all killer no filler. So that's a Sum 41 little line. If anybody remembers Sum 41, um, oh, there you go. Anyway, so this is in G major and it's 111 beats per minute. So the chord progression is C major 7, D, D minor 7, E minor 7. And it's in the good old 4/4 time signature. Um, it's pop. I'm 100% sure Coming Up every now and again would love to get out of that time signature, but he does tend to stick very rootedly in that area because he knows what he's got to do for the band. This is full on synth vibe retro. This has got so many nods to the 80s, it hurts. In fact, I'm
Mm,
100% sure
yeah.
there's a turquoise and pink shell suit floating around somewhere in the background. There's that much retro in this one.
Maybe that's
So let's
why I
start with
loved it so much.
probably. So I'm actually looking at my notes at the moment, and Anne can see my notes because we share notes when we're doing the podcast. My actual notes for the drums next to it says drums, and it says OMFG.
That's all you gotta say.
That's all I'm going to say about the drums on this. Honestly, dude, seriously, these drums are amazing. So where do I start? The drums on this are punchy as hell, and this reminds me of Phil Collins. This
Now
reminds
that
me of
is a high compliment. That is a
oh,
high compliment to Kang
dude,
Min Hyuk. Wow.
This is Phil Collins territory. This reminds me of being in the car with my dad and air drumming along.
This song again, it felt so familiar to me. So familiar. Like I just felt like I'd
Honestly,
heard
yeah,
it
it
before.
does. It is very much Phil Collins' style of drumming, and that's because what he's done is he's not gone down the rock spectrum because rock tends to use a lot of crash, so it tends to use a lot of cymbals and crash and ride and things like that. Whereas this is very heavily on the toms. So the toms are the drums that generally sit around the top. You have a floor tom and that as well, but these using the ones that are sort of sitting at the top. And oh my god, it's honestly the drums on this are fantastic. I am gushing. There we go. We knew it had happened.
Yeah, I knew it
So
would happen. It always happens with Kang Min Hyuk. He can bring it out in you.
it's the drums crying out loud. Look, we've had this conversation. Look, I am a drum and bass girl at heart. I mean, it's as simple as that. To me, that's always the backbone of all the music that I love. Anyway, getting sidetracked. So the drumming on this is spectacular. It's so well done. It's not over the top. It is steady, but as I said, instead of just going cymbal hell and the crashes and everything, that what he's done is he's opted to go for these really beautiful tom rolls on it. So you get a solidness through the song without it being in your face, which is what a lot of rock drums can be, because they can be very much like da-da. And it's just so well done, and I love it. And
one of the
yeah,
things I'm thinking about is how we're just saying a lot that, particularly with these two songs, they feel familiar. You're talking about Western artists and influences that they feel like they kind of
yeah,
sound similar to. I think that's an interesting approach for them in terms of maybe they've been touring over the last year in the West, and they had not really
yeah,
been in the West in 11 to 13 years. If they want to kind of gain more of a listening audience, in the West, I think this is a smart approach to have something that
yeah.
sounds a little more familiar, to folks. And then they kind of will gravitate to a song that you feel like, oh, wait, like do I know this song?
I know
Like,
this. I know this. Yeah.
subconsciously. Yeah, it's kind of a smart approach. I don't know if that's purposeful or that just happened to be, but kind of
I
interesting.
think they're clever. I think they're clever enough for it to be slightly purposeful.
Mm,
I don't think it's just purely by sheer dumb luck that it's ended up that way.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
so the bass, again, the bass is here to hold this whole thing together. And it's completely and utterly just rooted in the progression. And it's not overcomplicated at all. But the way it is played is beautiful. So you get a really groovy feel out of it. And a lot of that comes from what they refer to as thumb popping. So you use your thumb basically to slap the string. And also to pluck the string as well, so you get the sort of like hammer on. Yeah, exactly. So you get that effect with it as well, and it's locked in so perfectly with the drums, and that's also what pushes this groove. And it's kind of, hate to say it, you kind of just want to go with it. You can't help it. When you
Oh,
listen
you
to it,
can't
the
help
shoulders
it.
start to
It's so
go.
catchy.
It is
Yeah.
unbelievable. And nice thing is, I find with this, especially this track, nobody's overplaying.
Mm,
Everybody knows their part. Everybody knows what script they're doing, and nobody's overacting it or over egging it. And a lot of the time, you tend to find that sometimes that happens.
mm,
And it loses the soul, I think, sometimes, of the message that they're trying to get over, because that one thing will just come to the fore when you don't really need it to. And they're very good at understanding that. And that's one of the reasons I love them as a band, to be honest. The
mm,
guitars, though, on this are darker and a bit moodier.
mm,
And whereas they tend to be quite sort of, I want to there's normally with Youngwar's guitar, there's more like a sparkly thing about them. There's like a shimmer that sits a little bit higher up, whereas this is a little bit more sort of natural. It's kind of, hate to say it,
mm,
it's kind of like a guy sort of sat next to you, sort of intimately talking to you in his like chest register.
mm,
Yes, yeah, and we all know I love a deep voice, but that's a different thing. The great thing about this is it's controlled strumming as well. So what you'll find is, when it comes to strumming a guitar, you get sort of like multiple different types. So you'll get like punk strumming, which is like that really aggro strumming, or you'll get the strumming that you kind of get with like folk music, which is much more open and allowed to ring. This sits somewhere politely between the two, and obviously, again, this allows this airiness and the theme of it. So again, we're going back to this sort of astrological thing. We're going back to space, air, and the vacuum of
mm,
space. because we've got this vacuum of sound in there as well. And that, just the way it locks in again to the drum groove, is brilliant and amazing. Now, getting on to Younghwa and his vocals. Now, his vocals are in his chest register in this, which is an unusual thing. He is a falsetto singer. He tends to sort of sit in that higher sort of head register, sort of top of his chest, and he does that flick into his head, and he sits very happily there. Whereas this is sort of somewhere down here, and it's quite nice to hear because you don't normally get that with him. And that to me just gives it this warmth and this smoothness, and this, it becomes very intimate because you've got this sort of more, for want of a term, manly sound about it. It's not a boy screeching at you. This is a man singing to you, and that fits with the theme to me. I think that is one of the main things. And again, he doesn't overplay this. It's a pentatonic vocal line. It's not over the top. And literally it's just sits there so nicely. What makes this song though is how it's been built. So the actual building blocks of this, when the song's been put together and then mixed, the vocal layering of this is unbelievably complex. There's vocal layers on his sort of chest register. There's a bit lower down, there's a bit higher up. We've got ad libs in there that are coming in and out, and each of those ad libs have got multiple layers and harmonies. It's clever. It's a beautiful song.
Kudos again. I wonder who does a lot of their production. I haven't been able to find a lot of those credits of who's doing the production, who's doing the mixing.
I mean, the guys have been around for a very long time, so I'm quite sure they probably have a hand in quite a bit of this themselves. I don't think they necessarily need, they probably have people in there as sound engineers supporting them, but whether or not they actually need producers these days is a different thing.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to find out. For me, I think it's kind of interesting. We've gone through probably about close to ending like the first half of this album, all very up tempo. So it's kind of interesting. You said, really hitting you as a listener right at the beginning, like song after song after song, this kind of driving tempo. And I bet I've mentioned this before. I just think these songs are just so incredible to see performed live. So anybody who has been on this tour, please leave comments on this episode. Tell us what their live performances of these songs have been like. I would love to hear that. The chorus to me is just so catchy, like To the Moon and Back. And I'm excited to kind of dig into the lyrics because, again, I think another common English idiom that I think is interesting he's centering this song around. I like the vocal ad libs that he does in the background. I put in my notes kind of starting around 2 minutes 30 seconds. Maybe it goes into some of that layering that you're talking about of all of those vocals. But yeah, I mean, let's dig into a clip of this song. I've got another performance clip too. I mean, his movement and his face, Kelly, like say it all. Like he looks so fucking happy and excited. He makes me excited. I was over here grooving.
That was written for somebody. You can tell that that's written for somebody. That's written with love and intention. Oh, that's so gorgeous. It's so lovely. No, you can actually see that. That is genuine adoration in the way it's performed. We know he's an actor, but I mean, God bless him if he's that good at acting while he's singing. But Yeah, I
You
love that.
know,
It's
it's so
great.
funny that you say that because my first line in the meaning of the lyrics, Kelly, says, "This is a love song about someone's devotion to another person." So I love that you kind of noted that in
Oh,
just how
I
he
love it.
looks when he's singing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You can just see the joy in his eyes, and I hate to say it, I don't think it matters how good an actor you are. The eyes, to me, say everything. And yeah, oh, that's
I
adorable.
know,
I
it
love
just
that.
makes you so happy, and he's, like, dancing while he's playing.
Yeah,
Again, going
it's
into that
great.
rhythm you
Oh,
talked about, that kind of leaning into that 80s retro. Just love it. Here
yeah,
we go. The metaphor and comparison we talked about with space language. Obviously, to the moon and back was, as I just said, very common English idiom, but orbit, moon shadow, circling. I mean, this whole song, Kelly, is just filled with all of that language, kind of describing to me being pulled into another person like a gravitational force. What's your
oh, it
perspective on kind
is.
of this song?
Yeah, it is. It's a gravitational well, and that's beautiful. I adore that. I mean, it's almost like as well as the moon spins around the earth and the wave follows it. I love that. I think it's just really lovely. Um, there's so many just joyful. There's no negative in it either. It's just it's
Mm,
not like, oh God, I'm being pulled into this person and losing myself. It's like, sod this, I'm all in. And
yeah.
that's just so sweet and lovely. And I enjoy listening to people write love songs that are adoration of somebody else, that
Mm,
are
yeah.
like that it's just a proper declaration of how they feel. And yeah, I mean, there's certain lines in here though. So I mean, obviously, it's like orbiting. It's the orbiting thing. It's like even
Yeah.
though we go
Mhm.
around and come back several times, it's just
Mhm.
like we're doing the orbits here. But it's this. It's being held by somebody. It's this as we've said, it's this gravitational pull, this gravitational wave that is it's holding these two people together. And yeah, it's so
I
sweet.
I agree with you that he writes about adoration really well. I
Yes.
definitely agree with you. I like the lyric, "I am you." Very simple. But to me, it's kind of those 2 souls that have merged.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
another lyric, he says, "The beginning and the end, the earth and the sky, you are the reason for my everything." I need a guy to say that to me.
I like verse 2. Verse 2 is adorable. Probably from the moment that I saw you, I think I believed in fate. It's all right. I'm
Oh,
becoming ready for anything. I just want to show you what I'm feeling.
I love that. I like that I'm becoming ready for anything, right? Doesn't
I
know
know.
what the future's gonna hold, but he's
No
ready for
idea.
it as long
No
as
idea.
it's with
He's
this other
ready.
person.
Suitcase is packed. He's moving. He's gone.
Yeah, it's kind of like, this relationship is all encompassing, but in a positive way, right? Like there can be songs about
Oh,
relationships that become all encompassing
oh,
in which there's toxicity, but this one,
yeah. And
there's no
there's no
toxicity.
toxicity. This is the biggest green flag song you have ever heard in your life.
Green
This,
flag
this,
song.
it's a green flag song. Hey, hey, hey! I've seen a fair few red flags in my life. I like a green flag song. I'm all down for that.
I
One
know.
day,
I
maybe
know
I'll get a
you
chance. I know.
as a science person, you love space, as you've said, you love black holes too. And I kind of thought of you with this, of like the circling. I think of like two black holes, kind of circling. And you
Yeah,
have a lyric in Falling by Spectral, kind of about two
yeah,
black holes kind of circling, right? Am I remembering that lyric that
yeah.
you have in
Very
that
well
song?
remembered. Yeah, yeah.
I know,
Very
it
well
made me, I don't
remembered.
know why it kind of made me think of that, just like the connection to space and the orbit and circling each other. I just kind
I
of
mean,
thought of that.
I literally, if anybody gets close enough to me, I literally have a tattoo of the escape velocity required to escape a black hole on the back of my neck. So so when I say I'm a bit of a science girl and I'm a bit nerdy, I literally have an equation on the back of my neck.
Yeah. Let's go back to kind of these two songs a little bit and talking about these common idioms or slang in English, low key, to the moon and back. Again, it's so interesting that he's building these songs around these English phrases. I
Yeah,
kind of like
yeah.
what you said. Like maybe he picks a phrase that he finds a lot of interest in, and then he kind of builds a song around that. I would love to know if that's
Well, I mean, to
accurate
the
or
moon
not.
and
That's so
back.
interesting.
To the moon and back. Frank Sinatra. So there's a line in
Mm.
the chorus which is "Fly me to space," and I mean, when I read that, I've got you know, "Fly me to the moon and let me play amongst the
Mhm.
stars." It's got that similar
Mhm.
thing to it. So I mean, that could have, that type of thing could have been where the inspiration came from. I mean, these are uh, they are typical writing tropes. So it's nothing new, but it's so well done and it's so lovely, and I really like that. Um, there's lots of little sort of very sweet declarations in this, but very forward. So I mean, this is what we were saying about him being,
Mhm.
quite forward, and and there's one like, "I'm all right. I'm becoming ready for anything, and I just want to show you what I'm feeling." And I think that is, again, it's one of the things where I think in a modern society, we all get so sort of flustered with our own awkwardness and our own inability to read people and to know what's going on. I think we've kind of
Mhm.
forgotten gut instincts. Um,
Mm.
you never quite know what the other person's thinking, so it's just like, he's like, "I want to show you," but this song is like, "I'm telling you," as well, just in case if you've not
Right.
quite cottoned on to the woman, I do like you, so I'm actually gonna put it in words as well. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's sweet, and you can, as I said, I think you can see the joy in his face while he's performing this, and I think that comes from a place of the love that it was written with.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is one of my favorite tracks so far on the album. I listen to this one a lot. I can just like kind of put it on repeat. To me again, it's like that
Yeah,
earworm.
definitely. I
Yeah.
like the line of "even the moon stained shadow," and then you get the little
Mm.
repeat towards when we're getting towards the end of "even the shadow," um, because obviously it's like the dark side of the moon, and things like that. And it's nice because it's sort of like saying, "I accept you for everything that you are." Whether you're the
Mhm.
glowing, beautiful illumination of the moon, or if you're the dark side of the moon because it's that time of the month and you're ready for screaming somebody's head off. Love is love. You've got to
Yeah.
accept the good with the bad.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I love that. I love that line too. Yeah, this song is great. I think too kind of back one other point I'll make on that these songs are built maybe off of key phrases that are English idioms or English slang, but I think he does a really quality job still building a song that is mostly in Korean and expressing
Mhm.
himself in Korean in ways that fit these English phrases or idioms well. And I think
Yes.
you and I both know the language well enough to kind of understand that that isn't always easy to achieve.
No,
um,
no,
yeah,
it's
and I
not.
just wanna kinda recognize his ability as a songwriter
Yeah.
to do that very effectively.
And very, very easily and simply as well, because he doesn't make it flowery, which I tend to find
Mhm.
some Korean writers do. They overflower words to try and make it fit into a Western metaphor or something like that. And
Mm.
he doesn't. He's straightforward again. that just says it all. He's just a really good songwriter. They're all really good songwriters.
Well, this was fun, Kelly. We promise viewers and listeners we will not wait quite as long in between part 2 and part 3, but we are going to keep our conversation going with part 3. But before we do, let's wrap up, Kelly, with a humor segment. Now, I'm interested in how you're going to react to this because I know that maybe being British, maybe things don't embarrass you. I don't know. Do you get embarrassed easily?
Come on, woman, you've met me.
I feel like you don't embarrass easily.
You know I can embarrass myself within 3 seconds flat. So, I mean, yeah.
But do you feel self-conscious if you do something embarrassing? Like, I feel like you're so stoic. You're so cool all the time. You're just like, you could do something embarrassing, but it's still like cool. You still look cool.
Shall I let you into a little secret?
Is it only your accent that makes you sound cool?
I'm terribly, terribly awkward. Socially
okay, this will be a fun one then. All right, this is going to be a fun one. So imagine, Kelly, you meet the members of CNBLUE over and over and over again. Okay, you get these opportunities and you keep meeting them. But your interaction is so boring that every time they forget who you are. They don't even remember that they've interacted with you. Okay. Or you get to meet them over and over again. But every time you do something so embarrassing that they totally remember you, they remember the incident, they remember your name, and continue to bring up the previous incidents that were embarrassing. So every time you do something new that's embarrassing, but they remember, they laugh about it and talk about it every time. So what's worse? That they would never remember who you are because you're so boring, or that they would because you're so embarrassing to yourself?
Right. Clarifying questions times.
Of course.
How frequently are these interactions?
Ooh, let's think about this. I'm going to say you have an opportunity at least every 2 to 3 months. You get to meet them and you're around them. So it's pretty regular. You keep coming up somehow.
Okay, right. Okay. So, right. Okay. I have met people. I will freely admit. So obviously, previous life working behind the scenes, I've met a hell of a lot of musicians, and a lot of them, don't remember you because they see that many faces all of the time.
Of course.
And I mean, literally, you could know their entire family and they'd still probably not recognize you. So that doesn't bother me. In fact, actually, there's something kind of beautiful in somebody not automatically recognizing you and going, Kelly! There is something kind of nice about that because you can just sneak out the back and be mysterious and nobody will know who you are.
Yeah, you're mysterious. Yeah.
My black cat energy, obviously. Yes, obviously. And then, so the other side of it, so my next question, how embarrassing is embarrassing?
Like, okay, it's got to be like the worst thing you can imagine. Like, there's always some just crazy off the wall embarrassing thing that happens every time you're meeting them, to the point to where when they see you again, they're like, there's you, it's Kelly. Remember last time when we met and you did blah, blah, blah.
Oh God, I probably shouldn't say this, but I mean, it's well documented that I've fallen off stage twice. Actually,
you have said that. Yeah, you've shared that before.
So that's well documented. So we know how clumsy I am. So when it comes to an embarrassing moment for being clumsy, we can do that. When it can come to an embarrassing moment for saying something stupid, I'm also very good at that as well. And I did. I did meet one of my favourite bands while I was working at Rock City, and they'd done a load-in, and I'd just been to the ladies' room, and I walked out of the ladies' room, and said band were in the foyer as they were wanting to load into the main hall, and the sound guys were up there getting all the gear in, and they just wanted to know where they needed to go for the dressing rooms, etc. At the time, I'd got a very long flowing skirt on. Or should I say it was a very long flowing skirt at the front. I'd managed to tuck it in my knickers at the back.
See? That could be one of the things that happens in front of CNBLUE. But over and over and over again. Every time you meet them.
Have we not worked out that I am a liability for embarrassment anyway? Have we not worked this one out? I know you like to think I'm mysterious, cool, sophisticated, this black cat, when in fact I am actually an over hyperactive Labrador.
I know you just hide it well.
Oh my god! And it'd be guaranteed as well that if I was getting on swimmingly with somebody, I'd end up piggy snorting halfway through it as well. So that's the other thing that's bound to happen.
There you go. Your laugh is one of my favorite things about you.
My laugh is terrible, to be perfectly honest.
No, it's not. Our viewers and our listeners love it.
It sounds like an old, dirty man. Especially when
our viewers and our listeners love it. I love it too.
Yeah, it's definitely something. That's all I'm saying. And oh god, between these
I feel like you sound like you're leaning to not caring about these embarrassing moments.
I just don't give a damn. I'm gonna do something stupid anyway, so yeah, I just embarrass myself. And it's not because I want to be known by them. I just know I'm gonna embarrass myself anyway.
Yeah. I think my former self would have picked being in the background, because I kind of used to be very much like, I didn't like having attention. I didn't want anybody to see me. I just wanted to be floating around and nobody ever noticed me, and I could just watch the world from afar. That's always kind of how I used to be. But I feel like now, like the old me, the thought of embarrassing myself in front of the members of CNBLUE, I would have just felt horrified and gotten so depressed by it, where now I feel like myself, I'm like, you know what? I say stupid shit all the time. And like, I don't care. So I think for me, I'm going to go embarrassing thing, because how cool if they would then remember me and be like, that's that girl, Anne. Like she does this. Like, I remember you from last time. Like, I'd rather them remember me than be so boring that they don't even remember that they've met me over and over and over again. So I'm going embarrassing moment.
The problem is with me, and a lot of the time I do try to stand in the background, and so nobody pays me any attention. I'm just going to stay here. It's safe. Everybody will leave me alone. And then I'll think, I'm just going to go to the bar or wherever. And then I suddenly realise I've got high heels on or something. And then I'll be like, don't fall over, don't fall over, don't fall over. And as you get to the third mantra of don't fall over, you face plant. And it's like everybody remembers you because you're the girl that face planted. So, yeah. I don't think it matters, even if I try and be boring. I just do some stupid ass shit.
All right, viewers and listeners, tell us what you would pick. Do you just want to hide in the background, be so boring that CNBLUE meets you over and over again, but honestly never remembers you? Or are you willing to risk doing the most embarrassing thing imaginable in front of them every time you meet them, but they're going to remember your name every time? Tell us what you would pick. All right, leave us comments. Tell us what you think about these two incredible songs from CNBLUE's album 3ology. We always love to hear your feedback. If you don't already, follow us across all of our social media sites. On Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube, we are at KROK_cast all across the board.
Click here to subscribe.
Check out our merchandise. We have launched in the last month or so some amazing merchandise. Thank you to everybody who's been purchasing. Kelly had people post on Instagram pictures with the merch. If you tag us, we will share back out across all of our social media your post about the merch. So if you've bought something, thank you. You can check out the merch on our website, krockcast.com. All right, see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.